It's becoming so clear that our mental well-being is just as vital as our physical health, isn't it?
Absolutely. No question.
But, actually getting the support we need can still feel like, well, a real challenge sometimes.
Definitely. Things like waiting lists, the costs.
Exactly. Waiting less cost, even worrying about stigma. It's not always straightforward.
It really isn't.
But something really interesting is happening now. This whole field of artificial intelligence, AI, is stepping into the picture.
Yeah, it's offering potential new ways to maybe bridge some of those gaps.
Right. We're talking about things like emotion AI that tries to understand our feelings, and mental health chatbots you can talk to anytime.
The scale of the challenge AI is trying to address here in mental health care, it's pretty remarkable.
It really is.
Globally, getting timely, affordable support is still a massive issue. So the idea of these digital tools being readily available, well, it's generating a lot of interest.
Understandably so. And that kind of brings us to the main question for our deep dive today, doesn't it?
Which is?
Can AI truly understand the nuances of human emotional distress? Can it offer support that feels genuinely helpful? Or is all the excitement maybe overshadowing how important actual human connection is for our mental health?
That really is the core issue we need to unpack. The very nature of emotional understanding. Can technology, even as it gets more advanced, really replicate that, or even simulate it in a way that's actually beneficial?
Right. So for this deep dive, we've been looking at some really insightful discussions about AI's role here.
Yeah, some interesting perspectives out there.
Our goal is really to get under the hood, see what AI can offer, but also think critically about, the human stuff, the things that make our mental health experiences unique.
Sounds good. Where should we start?
Okay, let's unpack this. What's the initial promise? What does AI bring to the table first and foremost in mental health?
Well, I think the most obvious thing, if you look at healthcare access generally, is reaching people who might otherwise be left out.
Okay, like who?
People in remote areas, for instance, or those facing financial barriers or maybe mobility issues.
Right.
For them, these AI tools could be a first point of contact, maybe some initial support they just wouldn't have had before. It's about extending the reach.
That's a huge point, like having something available 24/7 wherever you are.
Exactly.
And it's not just about access, is it? There's also this idea of AI helping spot potential problems early on. How would that even work?
Precisely. So using techniques like natural language processing, NLP, and machine learning.
Okay, what do those mean in simple terms?
Right. So NLP is basically teaching computers to understand human language, the meaning, the context. Think of it like super advanced reading comprehension.
Sorry.
And machine learning lets the AI learn from massive amounts of text or speech data. It finds patterns, makes predictions, a bit like your email spam filter learning what's junk.
Okay, so how does that apply to mental health?
Well, the AI could analyze patterns in how we write or speak, subtle shifts in, say, word choice or tone, or even how often we use certain phrases. These could potentially flag early signs of conditions like depression or anxiety.
Wow.
And similarly, data from wearables, smartwatches, and things could show physiological changes linked to mental well-being.
So things like heart rate patterns?
Yeah, heart rate variability, skin conductance, things like that. The crucial bit here is early intervention. We know that makes a huge difference for long-term outcomes.
So it's almost like a digital smoke detector for mental health.
Yeah.
Picking up cues we might miss ourselves.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. Powerful idea.
And then there's the idea of personalized support. I've heard about chatbots using things like CBT.
Yes, cognitive behavioral therapy. What's interesting there is how these bots can adapt.
Adapt how?
Well, they're programmed with these evidence-based techniques like CBT, which helps change negative thought patterns, or mindfulness exercises.
Right.
And they can adjust their responses, their suggestions, based on what the user actually inputs, how they're progressing.
So it learns about you.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
It tailors the interaction. And we shouldn't forget mood tracking apps, too.
Oh yeah, those are everywhere now.
Many now use AI to help you spot your own patterns, identify triggers. Those insights can be incredibly useful for self-awareness.
It's like having a little personalized wellness guide in your pocket.
Sort of, yeah.
And what about really tough moments? I understand AI is also being looked at for crisis support.
Yes, though it's really vital to stress AI isn't meant to replace human crisis responders.
Okay, important distinction.
But it can offer immediate 204/7 support for someone in acute distress.
How?
Chatbots can be designed to use de-escalation techniques, offer coping strategies, and critically guide users towards human emergency services if needed. For someone feeling totally isolated, that immediate availability, it could be a lifeline.
That constant availability could be huge for some people. Another thing that came up is anonymity. The idea that talking to an AI might feel less intimidating.
That's a really significant point. The perceived lack of judgment, the privacy, it can lower the barrier for people who worry about stigma, which is still, sadly, quite common with mental health.
So it could be a less scary first step.
Exactly. A way to start exploring difficult feelings or just get information without feeling exposed.
It really sounds like there's a lot happening right now, a lot of potential applications emerging.
Oh, definitely. The sources we looked at show a real proliferation as of early 2025. You've got these therapy-like chatbots delivering content,
Right.
sophisticated mood trackers with AI giving you insights, and even research looking into emotion recognition for these digital tools.
Okay, let's dig into that specifically. This idea of emotion AI. What exactly is that? How does it even try to figure out what we're feeling?
Right, emotion AI. It's sometimes called affective computing. Basically, it's a field within AI focused on enabling machines to recognize, interpret, and sometimes even simulate human emotions.
Simulate. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So how does a computer start doing that? What's it analyzing?
It looks at a few different things. A big one is facial expressions.
Like smiling or frowning?
Yes, but also much subtler things, microexpressions. AI algorithms are trained on huge databases of faces to spot tiny, fleeting changes linked to emotions. A slight brow furrow for sadness, maybe, or eye tightening for anger.
Wow. Okay. Reading faces on a massive scale. What else?
Voice analysis is another key area.
How so?
AI can analyze your tone, pitch, how fast you're speaking, even the pauses, to infer emotional states. Think about how your own voice changes when you're stressed versus relaxed. AI tries to pick up those clues.
That makes total sense. You can often tell someone's mood just from their voice, even on the phone.
Exactly. And then there's text analysis, too.
How did that work?
Using that NLP we mentioned, AI looks at the words you choose, sentence structure, the overall sentiment.
So like if you're using a lot of negative words.
That's part of it, yeah. But also the nuances. Are you hesitant, forceful? It tries to understand the underlying emotional content of the text.
So it's not just what we say, but how we say it, verbally and in writing.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yes, some more advanced systems are starting to incorporate physiological data from wearables.
Like the heart rate stuff again?
Yeah, changes in heart rate variability or skin conductance, how much you're sweating, essentially. These can correlate with emotional arousal, giving the AI another piece of the puzzle.
It's like building this multi-layered picture of our emotional state from all these different signals.
That's the idea.
And the goal in mental health is what? To have AI. Like, notice if a chatbot user is getting upset. Or maybe give a therapist extra feedback during a remote session.
Precisely. It's about trying to make these digital tools more attuned to the user's emotional experience.
Okay.
And this leads us into that concept of digital empathy.
Right, I've seen that term.
Where an AI, like a chatbot, might respond to you saying you're sad with something like, I understand you're feeling sad.
Yeah, the classic phrase, I understand. How does it actually do that, technically? Is it just programmed responses?
It's more complex than just pre-programmed phrases, usually. Behind it are really sophisticated technologies. We're talking advanced machine learning models, deep neural networks.
Neural networks.
Yeah.
Like artificial brains.
Sort of, yeah. They're complex layers of algorithms trained on enormous amounts of human conversation data. They learn intricate patterns and associations.
Pattern between what?
Between certain phrases or emotional cues it thinks it has detected and responses that have been, labeled as appropriate or helpful in those situations in the training data.
So it spots a pattern and then generates a response it learned is suitable for that pattern.
Essentially, yes.
But here's this, I guess, the fundamental question for me. Can it really understand? Can an algorithm genuinely feel empathy?
And this is where we really need to think about what human empathy actually is.
Okay.
It's incredibly complex. It's not just recognizing someone's emotion, like sadness. It often involves sharing that feeling to some degree. That's affective empathy.
Right, feeling with them.
Exactly. And also understanding their perspective, why they might feel that way. That's cognitive empathy. It really requires being present, being attuned, drawing on our shared human experience, our lived understanding.
That sounds, yeah, much deeper than just processing data patterns.
Precisely. Current AI, no matter how advanced, lacks consciousness. It lacks sentience, genuine subjective feelings.
Is running on code.
It operates on algorithms and the data it was trained on.
Hmm.
So while it might get very good at recognizing patterns associated with human emotion and generating responses that sound empathetic, it doesn't actually feel that empathy like a human does. It simulates it.
It mimics it.
Yes, and that distinction is crucial, absolutely crucial when we're talking about mental health care.
Why specifically there?
Because in therapy, the quality of the relationship, the genuine human connection between the therapist and the client, that's often seen as foundational for healing. It's a primary factor in whether therapy works.
That connection, that trust.
Exactly.
That's a really clear line then. Mimicking versus experiencing. And that obviously leads us into some pretty big ethical questions, doesn't it, when we start using this in such a sensitive area?
It absolutely does. Applying AI in mental health, especially when you're dealing with people who might already be vulnerable, it carries significant ethical risks. We have to proceed very, very carefully.
Okay, so what are the big red flags? Where are the main concerns?
Well, first off, data privacy and security. This is mental health data we're talking about. It's incredibly sensitive.
Some of the most personal data there is.
Exactly. So how is it stored? Who has access? Is it truly anonymized? Is it being used to train future AI without explicit, fully informed consent? The risk of data breaches or misuse of this deeply personal information, it's profound.
Yeah, that's a scary thought. What else?
Bias and fairness. This is a huge one with AI generally, but especially here.
How does bias creep in?
AI algorithms learn from data. If that data reflects existing societal biases around race, gender, socioeconomic status, culture, the AI will learn those biases too.
So it can misunderstand people from certain backgrounds.
Precisely. It might misinterpret emotional expressions or communication styles that differ from the majority represented in the training data.
Kind of consequences.
Inaccurate assessments, inappropriate responses, potentially unequal or even harmful care.
That's deeply concerning. Then there's the question of, well, does it even work reliably? Accuracy.
Right. What if the AI just gets it wrong, misinterprets someone's emotional state?
Or worse, fails to recognize severe distress. Like if someone is suicidal.
That's the nightmare scenario, isn't it? The potential for providing generic, unhelpful advice, or even advice that's actively harmful in a specific situation.
Human emotion is so complex, so many subtle cues.
Exactly. And if the AI misses those or oversimplifies, users could feel misunderstood, invalidated.
Or it could delay them getting the actual human help they need.
That too, a significant risk.
And this ties back to what you said earlier about the human element.
Yes, the absence of genuine human connection and empathy. In traditional therapy, that therapeutic relationship built on trust, warmth, feeling accepted, truly seen by another human, that's often where the real healing happens.
Can AI replicate that? It sounds like you're saying no.
I think it's highly questionable. AI interactions might be informative, maybe even supportive in some ways, but they likely lack that depth of human connection needed for profound emotional healing. There's a risk of care becoming depersonalized.
Just feeling like you're interacting with a system.
Exactly. And then there's accountability.
Oh yeah, who's responsible if things go wrong?
Right. If an AI gives harmful advice or fails in a crisis, is it the user's fault, the developer, the company deploying it, a clinician who maybe recommended it?
That sounds like a huge legal and ethical gray area.
It absolutely is. Very unclear lines of responsibility right now.
One more concern that came up in the sources, the potential for over-reliance, especially maybe for younger people.
Yes, that's a real worry. The risk that individuals, particularly maybe younger digital natives, become overly dependent on AI for emotional support.
Instead of building human connections.
Potentially. Or instead of developing their own internal coping skills. If you can always get a quick fix or reassurance from an AI, does that hinder building resilience, learning to self-regulate your own emotions?
Like an emotional crutch that prevents strengthening the muscle.
That's a good analogy. It's a possibility we need to consider.
Wow. Okay, so that's quite a minefield of ethical challenges.
It really underscores the need for proactive, thoughtful engagement from everyone involved: developers, clinicians, users, policymakers.
So how do we navigate this? How do we move forward responsibly?
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like the answer is just no AI, but It's complicated.
It is complicated, but I think the path forward requires a real commitment to responsible integration.
Okay.
Finding that balance, harnessing the good bits of AI while actively mitigating the risks, and always keeping the human element front and center.
So what does that look like in practice? What are the key principles?
Well, one crucial idea, I think, is focusing on AI as augmentation, not replacement. Meaning its most ethical, most effective role, at least right now, and probably for a while, is lightly supporting human professionals and existing care systems.
Ah.
Assisting with things like initial screenings, maybe providing psychoeducation, delivering structured exercises like CBT homework between sessions, helping monitor progress.
So tools for the toolkit, not the whole toolbox.
Exactly. Collaboration, not substitution.
That makes sense.
What else? Transparency and explainability are vital.
Meaning people need to know they're talking to an AI.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Always. No deception. And beyond that, we need to push for these AI systems to be more understandable.
Less of a black box.
Right. Both for the users and for any clinicians involved, we need a better sense of how the AI reaches its conclusions or suggestions.
So not just trusting the output, but having some insight into the process.
Yes. And linked to that is the need for rigorous evaluation, independent validation.
What does that involve?
These AI mental health tools must undergo thorough scientific testing by independent researchers. We need solid evidence they're safe, effective, and actually helpful for diverse groups of people in the real world.
Not just relying on what the company's selling it says.
Definitely not. We need peer-reviewed research, independent scrutiny. That's essential for building trust and ensuring these tools actually do good.
Absolutely. What about rules and oversight?
We need strong ethical guidelines and regulations. Professional bodies, ethicists, regulators, they need to work together to set clear standards.
Covering what?
Things like data privacy, how to address bias, safety protocols when human oversight is required, clear rules of the road.
It feels like a big collective effort is needed.
It really is. And one final piece, I think, is user-centered design, co-creation.
Meaning involving the people who will actually use these tools.
Exactly. Prioritizing their needs, their perspective, their lived experiences right from the start. Designing with them, not just for them.
To make sure the tools are actually relevant, helpful, and ethically sound from their point of view.
Precisely. It comes back to keeping the human experience at the very heart of all this technological development.
Well, as we wrap up this deep dive, it's definitely clear that AI in mental health care is, well, it's a really complex and significant shift.
It really is. The pace of change is remarkable.
On one hand, you see these tantalizing possibilities, right? Expanding access, offering more personalized support. This AI mind, you could call it, is learning fast.
And the potential to augment what humans can do in mental health care, it's genuinely significant. We shouldn't dismiss that.
No, absolutely not. But on the other hand, we have to move forward with a really strong ethical compass, with real respect for the human experience. This whole quest for digital empathy, it shouldn't make us devalue or, worse, replace the real thing, genuine human empathy.
And if you think about what helps humans thrive, ultimately, it's connection. Technology should ideally enhance our ability to connect with ourselves and others, not detract from it.
Because our mental well-being is just so deeply tied to feeling like we belong, feeling understood by other people.
Absolutely. That therapeutic relationship we talked about, built on trust and real human presence, that's still a cornerstone of effective mental health support.
Couldn't agree more. So, looking ahead, it feels like cautious optimism is the way.
I think so.
Embracing AI's potential to help, to augment, but never, ever losing sight of just how vital human compassion and connection are for our mental well-being.
Well said.
So here's a final thought for you listening. What are your thoughts on all this? Where do you see the greatest promise for AI in mental health care? Or maybe what are the biggest concerns that stick with you?
Yeah, it's something worth reflecting on.
We'd be really interested to hear your reflections.